Dr. Brian L. Johnson is the 7th president of Tuskegee University, making him a member of the short list of exemplary individuals having the distinct honor of leading this historical and prestigious institution over its 134-year existence.
His affinity for the tradition of Mother Tuskegee was manifested via the Washington Digest, a year-long series of daily commentaries on the letters and writings of founding principal and President Booker T. Washington.
Since its introduction to the university community on June 13, 2014, the university's trajectory has been outlined through a working vision document and affirmed by an array of accomplishments, including major grant awards from Microsoft via the Thurgood Marshall College Fund and the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation, and their support in putting the A in STEM to create STEAM, while launching new music and visual art degrees.
First ever online degree programs, a 21st century higher education infrastructure and technology, including Golden Tiger Connect, people admin, including an online performance management system and a planning and accreditation module for managing an outcomes-oriented organization. The establishment of student engagement initiatives, including the Lyceum Series, Honors Program, President's Men and Women Leadership Program, of which we are both a part of.
And the Global International Studies Office, which hosts a biannual passport fair whereby 50 students are able to receive free passports, and all students, faculty, and staff can register for passports here on campus.
And lastly, First Lady Michelle Obama as the spring commencement speaker. These accomplishments exemplify Dr. Johnson's dedication to deeds done, a dedication previously exhibited in his administrative and academic posts as Vice President for Strategic Planning and Institutional Effectiveness, Assistant Provost for Academic Affairs, Assistant Vice President for Academic Affairs, Chief of Staff, Director, Coordinator and Associate of Assistant Professor of English, and the editor and author of 7 scholarly and academic books.
In preparation for such an administrative and academic portfolio, Dr. Johnson received his PhD in 17th through 19th century American literature at the University of South Carolina at Columbia in 2003, a master's in English at the University of Wisconsin in Madison in 1998, and a bachelor's in English from Johnson C. Smith University in 1995.
Dr. Johnson is married to Shamika Barnes Johnson and the proud father of 2 sons, Brian Asa Johnson and Nathan Morgan Kadesh Johnson.
Please join us in welcoming our speaker and the 7th president of Tuskegee University, Dr. Brian L. Johnson.
Good morning. Let's please give another round of applause to both Omar and Gabrielle for the wonderful introduction. I'd like to extend my apologies to all the persons who are standing in the back. I think in the future we probably should choose another venue because this venue is a little small, and so I'm consulting with the Dean of Chapel about where best to have these opening convocations. But for your purposes, we apologize, and I hope to not be too long. I want to begin by first congratulating the football team last night. I'm not sure if you saw that. I see you standing back there. You talk about winning. Good God Almighty, I love to win. And last night was an absolutely extraordinary demonstration of Tuskegee University's very best and their very brightest. So I'm so very pleased with their effort on last night because in many ways it indicates and in many ways it exemplifies the very best of Tuskegee University's both its tradition as well as its trajectory. I'm going to open by talking a little bit about last year. And many of you may or may not be aware, although you are free to view last year's opening convocation. But last year's opening convocation in September, right around this same weekend, was titled, "Let Your Light So Shine, that men may see your good works, not your words. That men may see your good works, not your words." And in 2014 and 2015, some of you may have already seen the wonderful job that our marketing and PR staff put together a year in review. Our alumni will see in an annual report that same year in review. But in essence, it talked about all the many wonderful accomplishments of our faculty, our staff, our students, as well as our alumni. In particular, our students, last year letting their works and not their words shine. Both our softball team and our football team were SIAC champions. This indeed is an example of letting their works shine as opposed to their words. We also had our wonderful Tuskegee University Golden Voices to be able to appear alongside of musical and Hollywood heavyweights such as Common and John Legend. They performed with them. We also know that our students participated in a national competition with the Honda All-Stars. And in that competition, they placed very high, and we're very proud of their efforts there. In addition, we know that our alumni are constantly doing the kinds of things that surpass all of our expectations. Founders Day last year, they gave a gift of over $259,000. Over the summer, I attended 2 regional directorship regional conferences in the Southeast as well as in the Midwest, and both of those yielded $100,000 in each presentation over the summer. In addition, this weekend, they are currently now in Pennsylvania, and obviously I can't be in 2 places at one time. And they are currently collecting, and I hope to get an email or a text very soon that they will have another gift of another $100,000 or more. In addition to this, when we talk about our distinguished alumni, we know that one of our most distinguished alumni, Amelia Boynton Robinson, passed. And although she has passed, and as it were, her light has been taken from us, the light of her works done, a 1927 graduate, a woman who not only talked about protesting, didn't just simply go on social media to protest. She actually walked across the bridge to be bloodied on behalf of every single person sitting here. So at this time, let's please acknowledge her with just a wonderful round of applause so that she hears in heaven. Our deans and our faculty members. Dr. Rungari was the principal primary investigator last year of a $1 million National Science Foundation grant. Dr. Ruby Perry and her colleague, Dr. Cheryl Davis, a $7.1 million grant that's used to support the vet school. Dr. John Solomon has recently had a flurry of grant activity, and I know that all of those grants will soon be announced via our marketing and PR area. Dr. Walter Hill played a pivotal role in this institution being one of 6 1890 institutions to perform a testimony, historic testimony on Congress. And this extraordinary achievement would not have been accomplished without that fine effort by Dr. Hill. Dr. Aglin, our new interim dean of engineering, was appointed within 3 days of his appointment to a statewide board by the governor of the state of Alabama. Dr. C. Prakash won a prestigious scientific award for excellence. Mr. Warren Duncan, our former band director, was convinced to stay around this year and to lead this university's music and visual arts program alongside the assistant Dr. Wayne Barr. We also know that Dr. Dolores Alexander was named as a White House Champion of Change in this past year. In addition to this, Dr. Reuben Warm, who I know is also similar to Dr. Solomon, in the final processes of being named and being awarded several significant grants that I look forward to sharing via marketing and PR very shortly. In addition to our faculty, our staff, our students, and our alumni, I want to point out several individuals in the staff in the past year who've done a tremendous amount of work in implementing a number of significant things. Dr. Shantae Bolton, our Director of Human Resources, not only implemented a 21st century performance evaluation system called People Admin, But you will soon be learning that not only are your benefits not being taken away, but she's saved the institution close to $3 million per year annually in a strategic attempt to not only keep the same benefits, but to make decisions in keeping with efficient resource management. Mrs. Moss Smith and Dr. MacArthur were very instrumental in implementing online degree programs along with several of our faculty members, but I point to their efforts because as staff members, they led such an incredible, successful initiative in getting that off the ground. We're pleased to say that in our first iteration, we have 9 online degree students who are in environmental science as well as in environmental management in the Dean of Keynes area. So we're very pleased to have them on board for the first time in history. Ms. Sharon Samuel has been very instrumental in implementing a campus-wide system for accreditation, outcomes, faculty credentials, and student learning outcomes. We appreciate her efforts there. Ms. Leftwich, who has recently retired, was responsible for, and many alums are very excited about, having for the first time in history, e-transcripts. This means that when you graduate, you do not need to travel back to Tuskegee University. You need only go online to receive your transcripts. Dr. Bromfeld, Mrs. King, and many first-year instructors are responsible for this year restoring a common reading experience of our students in the first year. This year, they're reading The Other Westmore as a common reading experience shared not only by our freshmen, but the entire campus community as well as the wider community. In addition to this, they will be front-hand visitors when they meet with Westmore in spring. Ms. Barbara Chisholm played a role last year in implementing, for the first time, our TU one-stop area. Located in Margaret Murray Washington Hall, she worked tirelessly along with other staff members to ensure that the TU one-stop was not only in place, but ready for our students, both last year as well as this year. Dr. Sheena Harris and Edward Brown have been quite instrumental in new student engagement initiatives, a Lyceum series, a President's Leaders Program, an honors program, a new global research office, and as well as a global international office with the assistance of Dr. Rhonda Collier as well as Dr. Wu. Students, we hope that you show up and take advantage of a free passport. Trust me, I wish I had that opportunity when I was in undergrad. We will do it each and every semester. You'll need to have your birth certificate as well as a state ID as well as your university ID. And finally, although I could list so many different persons, I want to mention two. Our Chief of Police, Mr. Patrick Martis, who spent significant amount of time. Yes, he's enforcing tickets, and yes, he's requiring you to have stickers. But increasingly, as we learn to manage our resources, it's very important to take leadership of a unit to see what ways can you maximize efficiency on behalf of the university. And finally, our Chief Information Officer, Ms. Janelle Sargent, who was very instrumental in writing an $885,000 grant of Microsoft-funded technology. I have taken the time prior to my talk, which is entitled, Gotta Go Deeper, to go higher, to highlight what has been accomplished in the first year, but not only that, to demonstrate that no institution is a one-man show. June 13th, 2014, I stood at this very platform and I indicated that if I succeed, it's because you succeeded. And if I fail, it's because you have failed. We're all in it together. And by seeing these representative examples of faculty and staff and students representing, doing what is necessary to move the university forward, I find it incredibly important to think about these things as we offer this year's convocation address, which is titled, Gotta Go Deeper to Go Higher. I open with a quote by Charles Spurgeon, and he says as follows, "There are many things to be learned in the depths, which we can never know in the heights. There are many things to be known in the depths, which we can never know in the heights." And there are 4 particular points about going deeper to go higher that I want you to think about on today. And I will elucidate in view of not only going deeper to go higher at Tuskegee University, but going deeper to go higher as individuals, as students, faculty members, alumni, community members, administrators, staffers. All of us must go deeper to go higher in 4 particular ways. The first way is by looking to the past. Omar and Gabrielle, they pointed to the fact that during the first year, I spent a significant amount of time sharing with you commentaries about our founding principal and president, Booker T. Washington. Now, we know that many of our grandparents and our elders tell us, you can't know where you're going in the future if you don't know where you've been in the past. And make no mistake, when we talk about knowing the past, it's not merely a passing knowledge of knowing Booker T. Washington and George Washington Carver. There is much more history associated with these 2 men than merely knowing their names. Similar to the book Tuskegee University, it is not enough to just know that there were airmen. It's not enough to know that simply we know that we have a great tradition. But we must learn from the past and go deeper to understand that these were men and women just like you and I. They were flesh and they were blood. They worked hard. They did not do what they did, including our founding principal and president, so that we can sit here in the present to simply talk every single day about what they did in the past. To go deeper, to go higher, is to first look at the past. Not just merely to look at it, but to study it, to emulate it, to figure out how will you contribute to that past so that one day, 134 years later, someone will be speaking here talking about what did the students, faculty, alumni, administrators, staff members do in 2015 that's worthy of us remembering them in 2115. Have you ever thought about that? I am very convinced that to go deeper, to go higher, that Booker T. Washington, Amelia Boynton Robinson, George Washington Carver did not spend a whole lot of time day to day thinking that they would be honored 100 years from now. Nor, I assure you, that they walk around saying that I expect 100 years from now that people will sit down and merely recount the accomplishments of what we've done. I say a lot on social media, I'm not going to have Booker T. mad at me. And I believe that Booker T. Washington would be roundly upset if he did not hear the accomplishments that I've just listed by staff members, faculty members, alumni, including our students, especially the football team winning. Every single time you go out on the field, in the classroom, in your lab, you ought to want to be the best. Because that's what the past at Tuskegee University teaches us. And I'm convinced that looking at the past to prepare for a glorious future is a part of going deeper, to go higher. Secondly, to go deeper, to go higher involves a significant amount of preparation and planning. Now, I will not steal Dean Gray's thunder, or any minister, or any mosque leader, or any synagogue leader, or any Buddhist temple leader's thunder on a Sunday morning and try to preach to you. But let me tell you about preparation and planning and going deeper to go higher. How many of you know that if you build a house upon the foundation of sand, that you've built a very weak house? How many of you know that if you built a house because you want to do it quicker and you don't do it thoroughly, that when the winds come, the storms come, the rain, that your house gonna be gone? How many of you know that the best way to build a house is to dig until you hit what? You hit the rock. You establish a foundation so that in the midst of trials and storms, you will be unmoved and unshaken because your house has been built on a rock. Now, what does this have to do with going deeper to go higher? Students, faculty members, alumni, community members, there are people who take shortcuts because they want their house built quick. And they may get it built faster, but is their house built as thoroughly as it should be built? I contend that to go deeper, to go higher, means that although people want you to leave the party early or not to leave the party early, or people say it doesn't take all that, I believe it does take all that. That when you say 2 publications is enough, 1 grant is enough, you do not understand that going deeper to go higher means you must put in the necessary work in advance of others, even when they are taking shortcuts. Tuskegee University needs individuals who don't simply just say, I work from 8 to 5. Of course, that's your hourly rate for those who are hourly employees. We want people who say, not only do I work 8 to 5, but I'm going to work weekends too, to go deeper, to go higher. I want to be someone who will prepare and plan as if I'm building a foundation in my unit, in my area for this university that will last, for my life if I'm a student. Preparing that foundation is hard and arduous work at the beginning. But trust me, the individuals who build houses made of brick on foundations of rock will be these persons who stand and remain when all of the challenges of life come. And here at Tuskegee University, we have our challenges. All of you are aware that we're currently under a fiscal stability warning. It's very important that you know that you do not get into trouble overnight, and you will not automatically come out of trouble overnight. It will require digging, deeping, to get back to the foundation of doing things the way Booker T. Washington did things. He did things as a man of integrity, which is the greatest 9-letter word. He was a man of knowledge, which is the 2nd greatest 9-letter word. And more importantly, as I always indicated, he absolutely abhorred ignorance, which is the worst 9-letter word in the history of mankind. What does this mean? It's going to take a lot of preparation, a lot of planning to get to the rock of the foundation of this great and illustrious institution. And it's not only for the university, but it's also for you. Thirdly, in addition to ensuring that you look to the past, that you prepare and plan and put the work in advance, one thing that you must learn to do is persevere. What does this mean? I'm spending a lot of time talking about digging to go higher. But how many of you know, and I don't want any of my colleagues in the agriculture area to distort what I'm suggesting because I know that you're the scientists. But I've always understood that in order to produce the greatest growth with flowers or trees, that you got to go a little deeper to get to the rich black soil. Now, some of you throw out seed on a hard, unbroken soil. And though it may come up briefly, you may see a bud, but guess what? If it did not take root in good, deep, rich, black, organic soil, when the winds come, when somebody come to step on you and talk about you, when the sun comes up and burns up that little piece of bud, you're going to be wondering, why didn't I go deeper to get to that rich black soil? What does this mean? Going deeper to go higher requires perseverance. I don't care what anybody tells you. If something came to you easy, it ain't worth it. I have been young and I have been old. I guess I've always been young. I sent a note out that 20 years ago I wrote an article and they called me young then and they still calling me young. I guess I'm gonna forever be young. I like being young. But perseverance. Name me one successful person. Name me something football team last night that was easy about getting that win, 27-14. Name me faculty members who got a PhD that was easy to get. Dr. Perry and your colleague, tell me how easy it was to get a $7.1 million grant. Tell me honor students, valedictorians. Tell me how easy it was to sit in the engineering and computer lab all day to get your high GPA. contend to you that if you are not a person who knows how to persevere, to put in the extra work to prepare and plan, and most importantly also to look to the past, meaning your professor's knowledge, historical knowledge, research knowledge, so that you can prepare for a wonderful future, then of course you may be someone who will never ever know what it means to be a successful man or woman. Omar and Gabrielle pointed out that Mrs. Obama was here in spring, and she shared with you things that perhaps you never knew. I think some of you believe that to sit in the limelight is the easiest thing in the world. They have money. They are famous. They are public. They are in charge. But what you do not know is the backside of the story. And when you go deeper to go higher, you learn things by digging deep to get to the rock. You learn things by digging deep to get to the rich soil. You learn things by looking at Booker T. Washington's life and realize that the same people that celebrate him today, they weren't celebrating him 134 years ago. And guess what? Some of you might not have celebrated him 134 years ago. But what does this show us? That successful men and women, successful students, successful people who are in the limelight, as Mrs. Obama indicated to us, are people who have a backside of the mountain where they're lied on, cheated on, distorted. People who sit back and the only thing they do is to try to find out what's wrong with you. If you are not prepared for that level of success, then I assure you, you need to go to perseverance, and you need to go to learning to be patient, and you need to go to the path to understand these lessons, for they will assist you in your present. And last but not least, I wish to offer the fourth point, which I think is very important. My first point was you must look to the past. I use P's for the alliteration. You must learn to plan and prepare. You must learn to persevere. Another word for perseverance is patience. My last one is that you must learn to endure pain. Now, what does this mean? Got to go deeper to go higher. I'm stealing thunder from agriculture again. How many of you know that in order to produce growth in a plant or a tree, you got to do what? You got to prune it. You got to cut it back. Oh, let me help some of you out again. How many of you know that even though you go through painful experiences, that you learn more in pain than you will in success? See, pain teaches you about people. Pain teaches you about hard work. Pain teaches you about yourself. Now, I know we got a habit of sitting around saying what other people do to you. But have you ever sat down and looked at yourself and said, you know, these are the things I'm doing to myself? Painful processes and pruning for a university as well as you means looking inwardly at yourself. It means also going to the doctor. How many of you know my wife always trying to drag me to the doctor? A lot of times we don't want to go to the doctor because we don't want to hear what the doctor got to say. How many of you know we avoid doctors like the plague? You know why? We don't want to hear the painful part. We want to celebrate and talk about all the good stuff. But guess what? If no one can tell you anything about your shortcomings, about your mistakes, about where we're coming short, then there's no way you can ever grow. How many of you know no institution and no person is perfect? If you believe that you are perfect, that our university is perfect, you need to understand that we have to do things that will point to where our imperfections are so that we can address them. I have to go to the doctor and he tells me you need to go to sleep sometime. You don't need to work as hard as you work. I don't want to hear that, but it's important for me to know. So enduring a painful process includes also students. in your examinations. Your professors give you a lot of work. It's designed for pain. Band students, led by a wonderful drum major, who's the head drum major, Burroughs. He puts you through a lot of rigorous exercise. Why? So that you can perform and whip the other team's butt on the band field the way you've been doing the last 2 games. You must go through this pain to become better. I like to say that if you learn how to suffer, you'll learn how to succeed. It's in the time of suffering when you're preparing and you're digging in the hot sun, getting to the stone. It's in the time of suffering when you're trying to get deeper to the soul. It's in the time of actually having to read the life of Booker T. Washington beyond walking by the monument and looking at the veil of ignorance quote. It's in the time of actually lifting up a historical piece, a book, a biography, and reading the whole book that you suffer and you learn things that will ultimately help you to succeed. So what I'm asking Tuskegee University to do, what I'm asking you to do, what I'm asking myself to do, is to go deeper, to go higher. I heard Coach Slater one time talk about how we have to dig a little deeper. I went on the field and I had to be at the Phoenix City Classic last night because we had to receive another award. Our wonderful students were there, a part of the Whitewater Classic, and they won that too. I like to win everything. I believe if you in it, you should be thinking about winning. Now, it's not a problem that sometimes you can lose, because you can learn from losses too. The idea is that you ought to have the attitude that you are going to win. So I was there to receive an award, and a lot of times you'll see me at games. I don't just like to sit on the sideline and sit. I like to be in the middle of it. I like to hear what's happening on the sidelines. I like to be there seeing our wonderful cheerleaders, our band. I like to see them doing their work on behalf of the university. But I heard Coach Slater say something. I think it was Coach Slater, it might have been Coach Brunson. He told them they got to go deeper to pull this out. He said, we need a big play. He said, somebody somewhere got to do more than somebody else. Yes, it's not your job. No, you're not required. Oh, Kevin Lacey should score all the touchdowns. Oh, well, the big play receiver should do the touchdowns. But instead, somebody said, you know what? I'm a defensive person. And I need to do something to assist this university, to assist this football team so that we can get the win. And we got a young man who ran a 95-yard touchdown. Even though he wasn't expected to score a touchdown, he knew that it needed to be done, and he did it. So I'm asking all of us to go a little deeper this year. I always believe we should go from one glory to another glory. I always believe we should go from one success to another success. And if you think 2014, 2015 was a good year, I'm asking you to all go deeper, to go higher for an even better year. Thank you very kindly, and God bless you.